Hello everyone. Let's take a look at the Project Black Flag playtest packet number 2, which just dropped. So in this playtest packet 2, we have where we're getting some information about what parts of it can be used with 5e. So here it talks about luck replacing inspiration. We have, they'd like us to use the classes and subclasses here alone. There'll be information about making 5e subclasses compatible in a later playtest. We could use any 5e background, any 5e race or subrace, and the talents and feats shouldn't be mixed. We should use the talents from the playtest. All right, so that's kind of handy how to use it and make sure that we're doing it the way they think we should do it. Now let's look at luck. So luck is used for influencing an ability check, an attack roll, or a save on a 1-for-1 basis. You have multiple luck points. When you roll d20, you can add the luck points to the roll. So anywhere from 1 to however many luck points you have, you can modify the roll. You can make that decision after you know your roll, but before you know if it succeeded or not. And it can't offset a nat 1 or a nat 20. And you can take 3 luck points to re-roll completely. And you gain them 1 every turn that you fail an attack roll or a save. Not a check, just attack rolls and saves, even though they can affect checks. I think that's good that it doesn't include checks. DM can award luck points. They can be awarded for surviving difficult encounters or achieving story goals to a maximum of 5. And if you would gain your 6th, then it resets to a d4. So use them up. Don't sit there at 5. You're just going to waste it. And their goal here is to add a fail forward reward component to minimize the sting of failure, particularly in combat. So one thing I would do here is give it to the, you can trigger it when you know you fail, not when you know your roll. Because then there's like that sting of, oh, I wasted it. I didn't even fail and I used it. Or I failed by so much I shouldn't have used it. And then I think it's a lot of minutia to track. I would stick with the inspiration, and I would change the inspiration to a re-roll, given how they're changing it to if you succeed or fail, you can use it. But this is an interesting take on it. And if you play test this, I'm not going to get a chance to play test it, but if you do, let me know what you think. Okay, now we get some classes in this playtest packet. We got a fighter class and a wizard class. Right away, we see the fighter class has strength and dex that they can pick for their save proficiency. And come down here, we got a fighter quick build. Determining ability scores make strength your highest or dex your highest. I think they should unindent dex here. If you plan to make a Spellblade or make them all indented, maybe make that an indent. And then background, again, they just need to work on the indenting there. Nothing major. Okay, proficiencies. Again, strength or dex save. Second wind is replaced by a thing called Last Stand, which looks pretty neat. You take damage that reduces your hit points to an amount less than half your hit point maximum. You can, unfortunately, I don't like the fact that, I guess it's not the first time you take hit points that reduce it. Maybe I think that might be the intent, is anytime you're taking hit points and you're getting to below half, you could trigger it if you have a reaction. So it sucks up your reaction to trigger it. That's the one drawback there. So which is better, a reaction being sucked up or a bonus action being sucked up? And you can get a lot more hit points back. You can spend as many hit dice as you want, although you only get your con modifier 1 time. And that's once per long rest. So interesting. It's slightly different take on second wind there. Then they have the martial action. So they have all these different things you can do with a bonus action. And of course, bonus actions with spells that are bonuses or other powers that are bonuses, got to watch out for that. But it's interesting what they're doing here. Like aim, you can double your proficiency bonus for your first attack roll. Guard, you can grant disadvantage on attack roll against you or an ally of yours. Quick strike, I like this a little bit, although I kind of like the offhand weapon being part of an attack like they're doing in 1D&D. But this separates it from the attack completely, which is another way to go. It allows you to use your bonus action to strike with your offhand and maybe use your action to cast a spell or something else. It doesn't have to be part of the attack. So that's interesting. Wind up, bonus action, target you can see within 5 feet, double your proficiency bonus for the first attack roll. So that's a big weapon. Action surge, pretty much the same as in D&D. Improvement. So here's a little interesting take on how they're doing improvements. Every time you get an improvement, you can increase your ability score by 1 and choose a talent. And then we'll see that one of the talents you choose can be to increase an ability score by 1. So it's effectively the same, but basically what we're saying is every talent that you choose with this comes with a 1 ability score increase. And that takes it away from being part of the talent. So they don't have to worry about that in balancing them to the level 1 talents. So you could take a talent that's level 1 at a higher level, I think, and it'd work like that. So that's, I think, a pretty good idea. Okay, then we got a Spellblade. Not unlike, what is it? Eldritch Knight, I think. Even including what type of spells you can get. What type of talents you can get expands. Replace an attack with a cantrip. Then you have a Weapon Master. This is a little bit like the Battle Master / Champion, because it's got a little bit of both. So, once per turn, when you roll damage with a weapon, you can reroll one of the weapon's damage dice. As a rule, I don't like mechanics that's reroll dice, individual dice. Just slows stuff down, but so be it. Okay, stunts are like maneuvers, and they have a cost. So in theory, maybe there might be some stunts someday in the future that is a cost more than 1. They have Arcing Strike, where you use a big 2-handed weapon, deal an additional half the damage to a different target. So this needs to be a little bit maybe watched out for. What damage is included in that? I mean, if a paladin is multi-class to fighter and they smite and do a big number of damage, or if a rogue is multi-class to fighter and he sneak attacks, does that carry over to the different target? So that needs a little bit of clarification there. And I like it as an arcing strike with a big weapon. I don't like run through where just any piercing weapon can do the same thing effectively. Doesn't make sense with the size of the weapons involved. Deadly Flourish, crits on 19 or 20. That's like a champion, I think. The basic subclass for fighter in D&D. Okay, then we have wizards. And they have separated out any spell with a casting time of greater than a round to call it a ritual. That also means that any spell with a casting time of a round or of an action is not a ritual. So you can't do like the comprehend languages or the dispel magic as rituals, which were kind of mainstays for a wizard to be able to do one of those two things. Now, to offset that, they have, well, we'll get to it when we get to the wizard subclasses, but preparing casting spells, same as in 5e. Ritual casting we talked about, and you basically have a separate list of ritual spells. So you're going to get a little bit more spells in your spellbook. As a wizard, you have access, you get ritual of your choice. Do you put them in your spellbook? Because other classes get ritual books. I think they go in your spellbook. You can add spells, and spell levels are called rings here. So we'll get to that in a second. Okay, so here's Magic Sense. So this is like basically detect magic as a power or a feature of a wizard. So that kind of offsets the, detect magic as a ritual. Arcane Recovery looks about the same. Improvement, like we talked about, it's the same as the other one. Battle Mage. So they don't have, you notice, like the different types of schools being different arcane traditions. Instead, there are these battle mages and other types. Let's see, a battle mage can have martial or magic talents. Spell Ward, this is a little bit like an abjuration wizard. You get your bonus to your armor class equal to your proficiency bonus. Let's see, while the ward's active, you gain the following benefits if you are wearing medium or heavy armor. When you cast an arcane spell, first ring or higher, you create the ward, and the ward lasts a minute. So if you cast a spell every minute, you'll have this ward going. It gives you resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing. That's pretty strong. That might be too strong. I'm not sure there. You can dismiss it at any time. If you haven't cast a spell, it'll go away. You can use this feature number of times equal to your proficiency bonus per long rest. Okay, so it's not constant. It lasts for a minute. It ends early if you're knocked out. And you haven't cast the first level spell. Dismiss at any time. Okay, so there's that. Then we have a tactical caster. This is like the evocation specialist where you can carve people out of being affected by your spell. Spells that deal damage, you can choose yourself and any number of allies you can see, so you have to see them, to be immune to the damage caused by the spell. Contingency plan, whenever you fail to hit, you can do a reaction to attempt another hit. And this looks like unlimited, so all the time. You get 2 chances to hit if you have a reaction to spend. So that's pretty strong. Although you're tempted to use reactions that you can't then counterspell. Gotta watch out for that. And a little bit later, they'll talk about how you don't use reactions on your turn, but this is a prime example of using a reaction on your turn. So we'll come back to that when we get to what I'm talking about. Arcane Adapt. Okay, then the second type of wizard is a Cantrip Adapt, which comes from Kobold Press's Tome of Heroes. And you can make a cantrip a bonus action. You still can only cast one cantrip on the same run you cast a bonus action spell, though. So that's something that still exists. You gain 2 cantrips from any circle, any type of spellcaster. That's pretty good. And potent spellcasting, you add your proficiency bonus to damage roll. Unlimited time, so every round. Okay, then we get to talents, and they've made a few changes since Playtest Packet 1. So mental fortitude, once per long rest, after you've learned you failed, but before the DM tells you what happened, you can re-roll the save. If you're affected by an ongoing spell that affects only you, should say that targets only you, so that's right. Not an area effect spell, you can make the save every round. They should clarify that with something that is heightenable, like banishment. If you heighten it a level, you can target 2 creatures, then it'd be no longer targeting only you, ? Whereas it is a targeting spell otherwise. Okay, so here is a talent where, if you recall, you gain an ability score increase, and you can use mental prowess and increase another ability score. And this is under magic talents. So a fighter, in theory, couldn't be doing this. And then under martial talents, it is physical. So in theory, a wizard couldn't increase their con or their dex, unless they're a battle wizard, for example. Ritualist, and we see the first mention of weird here, one of their types of magic. School specialization. Artillerist is new. Ignore the loading property of simple and martial weapons. So strength score of 13 or higher. So good for a crossbow user, but you probably wouldn't be having high strength. You just use a bow anyway. But good for siege weapons. They clarified that in their rules, in the core fantasy role-playing rules, you will not automatically be proficient with unarmed strikes, and therefore the hand-to-hand giving you proficiency with unarmed strikes makes sense now. D6 damage is strong. Advantage on ability checks to initiate or escape grapples. That's nice. And then we got the physical prowess there. Here's a talent that interacts with the luck feature. Of course, you can't use it with this playtest, but it's showing you what might happen in the future. And then they go into spellcasting, and some of this is a copy from the SRD. And again, they call them rings instead of levels. The weird circle of magic is drawing its power from the forces that sit beyond measurable reality. Ritual spells have been altered from the way they appeared in 5th edition to clarify how and when they should be used. Bonus action spells, again, can't use your action to cast a spell from first ring or higher during the same turn. Since reactions are not taken during your turn, some can be. If you provoke, you can do a shield spell. We saw the one earlier. That's a reaction on your turn, where you can target a second creature, etc. Casting spells as a reaction does not interfere with the number of spells you can cast on your turn. So it should clarify that wording. I know that might come right from the SRD. I wonder if it does. All this seems SRD standard. All that seems SRD standard. Okay, here's the rituals here. So alarm, create familiar. Where is detect magic? Oh, it's not. So comprehend languages and detect magic are not rituals anymore. So you'd have to have them prepared, and you'd have to use a slot to cast them. Whereas something identify is, I don't know if I like that. I think they should stay ritualable, if that makes sense. Mage armor gives you a bonus to armor class when you're not wearing armor instead of giving you a set base armor class. So would that work with a monk then? I think it might interact with a monk in a way you might not want. Have to look that up. Create familiar. It's a construct instead of it could be like a fae or other thing in D&D. It comes from your body, so it takes your hit point maximum down by 1. Rolls its own initiative and acts on its own turn. I'd keep it acting with the player. But if it dies, it's destroyed, but you can pull it back out of your body after an hour, as long as you are not dead at the same time. And that's it. Okay, so that's the playtest. We get a wizard to play around with and a fighter to play around with. Some interesting takes on some things. What's the best thing I like about all of this? I think I like how they did these feats. I think 1D&D would be good to look at that, and then that way they don't have to have all the feats have, you can increase this or this. They can just focus keeping all the feats the same power. Interestingly, that makes these feats should be the same power as just a +1 on ability score, which seems odd because a lot of feats in D&D are supposed to be set to be as powerful as 2 ability scores. So they'll have to watch the balance on power on that. And that's it. Yeah, so there's the playtest packet too. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you get a playtesting of this stuff and how it goes on your table. And please come back and join me for playtest packet 3 and on. Check out the other 1D&D reviews and the Shadow Dark reviews that I'm doing now too. See y'all later.